Really lovely to have you. I hope you feel welcome among us. My name is Rich. My wife is Anna. And we just want to spend a moment this morning just looking back and looking forward. As I said, baptisms in a couple of weeks' time. After the baptisms, the following week, we're going to start a teaching series. But we just want to spend this morning and next Sunday looking back and looking forward and looking at some of the key aspects of who we are as a church family. We've used a really simple phrase on and off over the last couple of years to talk about our vision as a church, to talk about who we are as a church. Really simple phrase, a family of prayer for nations. There's a super simple phrase that we've used over the last couple of years, a family of prayer for nations. It's a phrase that comes from Isaiah 56. It's a beautiful passage of Isaiah where Isaiah speaks to the people of God who have lost their home, they've lost Jerusalem, their city, they've lost their temple, their wonderful, precious temple, and they're in exile away from their home. And Isaiah speaks hope to them, and he gives them a picture of what God's family is meant to be. And he says, you're meant to be a family of prayer for nations. And those three things, family, prayer, nations, are kind of shorthand for all sorts of things. Family speaks of our relational life together, doesn't it? We just spent the summer looking at the one another's. Family, that word speaks of our care for one another. Speaks of the importance of life groups in our church family. Speaks of the importance of the different generations working together. Anna did a great job this morning with her youth band. Did you notice that? It's great to have older and younger, not looking at older and younger people. Family speaks of different generations we are in our church family. Our light and momentary troubles that Sheila's just read about. We care for one another in those moments of trouble, don't we? We're not just like a family. The church is a family. It's like a theological reality. God isn't just like a father, he is a father. So we are a family of prayer. That's shorthand again for the importance of prayer, of worship. I just love what Danny was just saying there about hunger and presence. That is it. That is exactly it, isn't it? I want to be a church that is hungry for more of God's presence. We are a charismatic community. We believe in the supernatural gifts of the Spirit. If you think about it, every time you pray, you're engaging in a supernatural act. If I talk to Horace here, there's not much supernatural going on. It's one human talking to another human. If I address God, I'm immediately engaging in something supernatural. So there should be absolutely no surprise that the supernatural charismatic gifts, that we absolutely believe in them and welcome them. Of course we do. God's a supernatural gift. He speaks to us through prophetic words. That's why when we give time to worship on Sundays, not just because that's what you're meant to do, but it's because it is a big, big priority as a church that we're called to do. A family of prayer for nations. Does that mean we only care about other nations? No, again, it's shorthand for living beyond just ourselves. We don't just want to live for us, just for our little church, our little town, just our community. No, we don't want a parochial thinking. We want to think beyond, the street beyond, the town beyond, nations beyond. Wonderful to hear of the United Nations meeting at Jeff and Mary's life group on Friday. Nations come here and we can go to the nations as well. There's something of a call of God on our church, I believe, to be connected with nations, to receive from nations, to learn from nations, and to go and bless nations as well. So a family of prayer for nations. Another way of saying this is, I guess, family speaks of the in, prayer speaks of the up, and nation speaks of the out, if that makes sense to others of us. We want those three in balance in our Christian life. The in with one another, our spiritual walk with the Lord Jesus, and making sure that we have an external perspective. We're called to all three. So the question today is, how are we doing? How are we getting on with this call to be a family of prayer for nations? I just want to, give us almost an evaluation talk this morning. I am, you might be surprised to hear this, 42 years old. I know, don't look a day under 50, but I'm 42 years old. I began being a pastor or assistant pastor when I was 21. Not brilliant at maths, but I think that means half my life I've been pastoring, and most of that time leading a church, leading a team that's been leading the church. Therefore, more maths required. I've probably done how many talks have I done? I've probably done maybe for 25, 30 talks a year, don't know, for 20 years. 30 times 20, that's 600, yes? That's right. People tell me, even precious people who have the privilege, honor, of sacrifice, pain, of listening to quite a lot of those 600 or so messages, tell me that apparently not everybody remembers what I've said before. I just find extraordinary. I can't believe that. But apparently not everybody remembers all of my talks, which, considering I don't remember half the things I preached on, it's not a surprise maybe. But I want to take us back exactly 8 months. Today is the 7th of September. 8 months ago, 5th of January, I was standing right here and I began a talk. George, you ready for this? I began a talk with this video.
Stand by for action. We are about to launch Stingray. 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 Anything can happen in the next half hour.
Brilliant. 1970s, 1980s, children's TV, technology at its best. This program would, I guess, weekly with this catchphrase, anything can happen in the next half hour. I said, I'm going to quote myself, the 5th of January earlier this year, anything can happen in the next 12 months. I said, blessings. For some, there'll be battles. Encouragements and discouragements. There'll be surprises, there'll be shocks. As a church family, anything can happen in the next 12 months. I said, I think this is going to be a significant year for us as a church family, one of blessing, growth, and encouragement. There will be challenges along the way, inevitably, many of us as individuals, but I believe this is a significant year. We're starting as a church family 50 years on from when the first seeds of this church community were sown. I quote myself. Anything can happen in the next half hour. Anything can happen in the next 12 months. Well, 8 months in, what's happened? Let me point to a few things. We've baptized 5 people in June. Indeed, that is a great response. We had a brilliant baptism time in June. That was such a powerful morning, wasn't it? 5 adults, great to see many of them are in the room today, who I think, if I remember correctly, did not grow up in Christian homes, Christian backgrounds, but in the last year or two have all encountered Jesus sovereignly, and back in June said yes publicly to following Jesus. We're going to baptize 6 more in 2 weeks' time. That's going to be 6 more individuals who are saying yes to following Jesus publicly. And some of those testimonies we heard in June were of lives quite dramatically transformed. Anything can happen in the next 12 months. We didn't know that in January the 5th. We prayed in, as a church family, 16 new people into our church family this year. That's 16 people who've said yes to being part of a family of prayer for nations. That's 16 people who've said, no, not church hopping, not flitting, I'm giving myself relationally to us. Like they looked at us, right? And they said, yeah, I'm in. 16 people said yes. We've continued, I think, to impact our town. Just brilliant to hear what Abby was just mentioning there about something good in the hotel and serving those people who live there. Brilliant to hear of, did you say 20 bags, all that uniform that's being given? I know it's a hot topic at the moment, these hotels around our country. I'm not going to make any political points. I'll make a spiritual point, though. The Bible says you welcome the foreigner, and you welcome those who don't have a home, and you give your best to them. So that's what we're trying to do, along with other churches at this time. I think we're serving them brilliantly. Something good is really, really important. CAP. What a fantastic, absolutely fantastic organisation Christians Against Poverty is. Superb organisation that's existed for 30-odd years, based up north in Bradford. I had the privilege of working for them in Bradford a few years ago. Superb organisation. We've had our own debt centre here for many years now. Gary did a brilliant job looking after that. It's Az now with his team who are looking after that brilliantly. If you're going to church here every time I mention your dad, we're going to do your dad. As with Ruth and Katie and Julie doing brilliantly, Nick as well on board now. As tells me there are currently 22 clients on the books. 22 people who are being served and helped in our town and villages around. 5 clients have gone debt-free so far this year. That's 5 people who at the beginning of the year, anything can happen in the next 12 months, were in debt. And through wonderful serving of people like Az and Julie, faithfully getting alongside them, the chains of debt have been cut off. And any of us know anything about debt, you interact with people who are involved in debt, it's like poison ivy that gets in and it affects their spouse, their kids, if they've got kids, their family, it affects everything. So to have those chains cut off is brilliant. That is 5 lives transformed. We want them also to meet Jesus, don't we? The one who cuts off the chains of their sin as well. Debt coaching continues. Life skills continues. This brilliant course that CAP run. We've got a new course starting on Tuesday. 7 people ready to turn up on Tuesday and follow that through over the next term. We've added this year the money course. Back in January, we weren't doing it quite yet. We said yes to adding the CAP money course. And Nick has done a brilliant job pioneering that this year. 3 courses that he's run this year, and I've heard that he's hopeful of getting into one of the 6th forms and helping teenagers think about money issues before they become adults, and all sorts of things can unravel. CAP is a brilliant way we are serving our community. Anything can happen in the 12 months. Kick, as mentioned that last year, this way of engaging with teenagers in our town through football. The Station, this charity that sits just alongside us as a church, run by us as a church, but just sits alongside us. Jason, who does a superb job running that. Paul Methrel as well from Cheltenham, who's doing a brilliant job helping Jason. Beginning of the year, 5th of January, Jason was saying, we're giving hot chocolate to a lot of these kids twice a week on a table. What if we had a van? Wouldn't that be cool? And a lot of us said, yeah, that would be cool, Jason. Very cool. Well, he only went and raised £34,000 this year to make us to be able to put in place a purpose-built hot chocolate van that's going to go around our town, engaging with teenagers, engaging with young people, showing them that they're loved, that they're important, that they're precious, that they have a future. I think that's amazing. Anything can happen in the next 12 months. We're serving churches. The reason why Jason's not with us, with Chris and 1 or 2 others, is that, as Abby just said, they're in Cheltenham today. Cheltenham church plant got going 4 or 5 years ago. If you rewind 4 or 5 years ago, that's COVID time. It was a struggle for those guys. They tried to plant a church at COVID. It was a difficult one. They went up and they went down. And the last couple of years, a few of us have got alongside them from our Salt and Light Advanced family and said, we're going to help you really see this thing take off. Well, today is the proper launch of Mosaic Church Cheltenham. And Jason's there, representing us as Whitney Community Church, representing our family of churches, saying, yeah, we're behind you. We want you to succeed. Because the kingdom of God extends when churches flourish. The churches doing well isn't the be-all and end-all. It's just a vehicle for God's reign and rule to go out into the world. It's his reign that matters, his influence that matters, his kingdom that matters. But he uses churches that thrive to take forth his kingdom reign. We want the same in Cheltenham. That's why we're also trying to support the church plant in Banbury and Swindon. Carol and Danny doing a brilliant job as part of a sort of like team that are helping the Swindon church plant, trying to do something similar to Cheltenham, get alongside them from a distance, encourage them, provoke them, serve them, see if this church plant can really zing on as well. We're serving churches beyond ourselves. We're serving nations. We just mentioned Jan White with us. Jan, who got back in England last week, 10 days ago. She's with family today. She's part of our church, but she lives in Uganda. That's us affecting a nation. The reason Mike and Kath aren't with us, they normally sit there, don't they? The reason they're not with us this morning, they're probably fast asleep actually, because they're in Wyoming, United States, and they're there for a month. Not for a holiday, but to serve churches in Wyoming and then across to Missouri, Salt and Light churches. And they're going to pour themselves out and serve those churches. The reason Dave and Chris are not with us today is because they are in Chipping Norton, Oxfordshire, not quite as far-flung as Wyoming, serving the church there, serving John and Kath. But 8 days' time, they're getting on a plane and they're off to America for a month. Just to have a jolly? No way. I know David, Chris, we all know that they will pour themselves out for a month into churches, into teams. They will give their best for a month, serving that other nation. A family of prayer for nations. A family of prayer. We've just done our prayer week, the second of the year. We did one in April, and we've done one last week. That's 336 hours of prayer. My maths is on fire this morning, as you can see. And we want to raise a generation. We've got 25 young people who meet in what we call D groups, discipleship groups. 25 teenagers in our church every other week say, yeah, I'll go and meet with my friends, and a spiritual mum or dad in the church will be there, and I'll open the Bible and we'll pray and we'll think, how can we love Jesus more? Yeah, I'll do that. I think that's amazing. 25 teenagers say, yeah, I'll do that. And some of them, it'll be 4 or 5 years, 5 or 6 years that they'll be doing that. I think that's brilliant. We're standing here in the King's School. That's one of our primary ways as a church, as a group of churches, of impacting the next generation. We want to teach our kids here in the ways of the Lord, and then when they're 16, off they go to do whatever God's put on their hearts. However God's gifted them. This is a key way. 240 kids in this school are being trained and sent out when they finish to serve beyond, we hope. The Academy. There you go, Beth. It's brilliant. So good to have Beth and Chris, who's our youth leader, so he's out with the youth now, and another guy, Jacob Neal, who's going to be based in Chippy. The three of these, I mentioned it briefly last week, but these three brilliant young people are giving a year to be with us, to be trained. We want to disciple them, train them in leadership, give them our best, and whatever God puts on their heart for the future. We're not interested in, we're going to train them and keep them. We want to train them, and then whatever the call of God in their life is, off they go. Might be here, might be elsewhere, almost doesn't matter. What matters is the kingdom gets spread, and young people get infected with Jesus, a love for Jesus, and a love for seeing his kingdom extended. Anything can happen in the next 12 months. I've just concentrated on the corporate things. I've not even touched on different ones of us I know are engaged as individuals in our workplace, in the marketplace, in our community. I've not touched on the individual ways we're impacting. I've just touched on the corporate ways that this year we're moving on our way to be more and more of a family of prayer for nations. That's because that is what we're trying to build. A healthy church that's brilliant to be a part of, that's fun to be a part of, that serves donuts on Sunday sometimes, that serves our towns, that serves other churches, and even serves and impacts other nations. That's what we're trying to do. If you're part of this church, you're saying yes to all of those things. Just want to remind us as well that 3 years ago, two years ago maybe, we had a visitor, a guy called Eddie Wallace, part of our wider Salt and Light family of churches, a pastor from France. And he was with us, he was just passing through. He was with us on a Sunday, and he gave us, I think, a key prophetic word as a church community. And we want to be based on the word, like Isaiah 56, and also we want to listen to the prophetic word, don't we? And he had a picture of a boat, and he saw in this boat that it had a flagpole that didn't have any flag on it. And he saw in his picture, his vision, I guess, that in the captain's cabin, there was a flag all nicely, neatly folded up, put away. And written on the flag, Eddie saw the word extension. And it was a kind, gentle provocation to get that flag back up the flagpole. And to be a church that looks into being an extension church, a church that thinks beyond, that isn't just interested in ourselves, but actually thinks way beyond ourselves. A family of prayer for nations. And I think we're seeing more and more that flag going back up that flagpole. So I think we're on course, I guess is what I want to say today. Have we arrived, though? No way. There's so much more that can happen. So much more can take place. We've got to keep going. We've got to keep running. And in just the last 10 minutes, I just want to look at 3 quite famous verses from the New Testament that are found in the book of Hebrews. Hebrews chapter 12. I just want to really quickly use these verses, which some of us, if you've been walking with Jesus for a number of years, you're probably very familiar with these verses. If you're more new to faith, these might be new to you. Book of Hebrews, one of the last books of the New Testament we've written by, we don't know who. It's one of the very few books of the Bible that we really don't know who wrote it. Almost certainly wasn't the Apostle Paul, but somebody wrote it right at the first days of the early church. And Hebrews chapter 11 is one of the great chapters of the Bible where he goes through the heroes of the Old Testament. And he says how wonderful they all are. And then the author says in verse 1 of chapter 12, therefore, on the back of all these people, since we're surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, all these people that have gone before us in the universal church, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter, or the author and perfecter of our faith. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him. 2 great words. Just consider him. Just think about Jesus. Consider Christ, who endured such opposition from sinners, from men and women, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart. The author takes the image of running. Christian life is it's a running race, isn't it? Not a competition, but it is a running race in many ways. And he says there are 3 things about how we're to run our life. And these are 3 things which we each need on our own personal races that we're running, and I think we need as a family together if we want to be an Isaiah 56 church. If we want to be an Antioch-style church. First of all, we've got to run free. We've got to run free. Throw off everything that entangles and the sin that so easily entangles, everything that hinders. Throw off. Running with things attached, that's tricky, isn't it? If God's called us to significant things, I think we can have a humble confidence that he has. You know, God has a habit of using little towns like Bethlehem and Nazareth, maybe even Whitney. He has a habit of using little towns that might seem not terribly significant to do great things for him. If he's called us for significant things in this town, in this region, in this nation, then we've got to be free of anything that's holding us back. Whether it's sin, as he mentions here, the author, bad habits, poor attitudes, things from our past that stop us running free in life. I thought it was a brilliant illustration, Jason's last week, of he had a little group running here, for those of us who are here. An egg and spoon race with obstacles. That's a good description of the Christian life, isn't it? Sometimes it feels like an egg and spoon race with obstacles. We've got to run free. It's hard to run with obstacles in the way, isn't it? Apostle Paul says it is for freedom that Christ has set us free. We read earlier, there's no fear in life, no fear in death. Maybe some of us walk with fear. Fear for death, what's going to happen? Fear in life. scriptures say. Jesus wants to get rid of that fear. We've got to run free if we're going to really enter into all that God has for us as a church family. Shake off things that aren't there. There's a wonderful bit at the beginning of the Gospels where the disciples get called by Jesus and they're in a boat fishing, probably not like that, with their nets. And Jesus says, "Come, follow me. I'll make you fishers of men." And in other words, you're going to not fish for fish anymore, fish that smell. You're going to fish for people. That's much better. But you've got to leave something behind. You've got to throw your nets down. Then you read of James and John who are in the boat with their dad. And Jesus says, "Come follow me." And we read that James and John left their dad in the boat to follow Jesus. And it's kind of this comic moment where dad is like, what's going on here? And it's kind of emotional moment where these two sons say to their dad, "I've got to follow Jesus." Following Christ sometimes means putting things down. Old habits, old ways of thinking. Might be sinful habits, sinful patterns of thinking, or things that nobody see at home. We've got to run free. We've got to run surrounded. Run surrounded. Since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, he's first of all meaning everyone in chapter 11, all the great heroes that have gone before us. And it is amazing. We are surrounded by men and women through church history who've walked with Jesus for centuries and centuries and centuries. There is a universal historic church that we're a part of. But we also run surrounded with one another. We run surrounded with one another. We spend a little bit of time in the summer looking at the one another's again. And I've said it a few times. The slogan of the local church should really be one another. Love one another. Forgive one another. It's like the slogan of the local church. Just want to show a picture here. Some of you might recognize these two guys. You can see they've got the same surname. They're brothers. They're two athletes, two triathletes. Very famous British triathletes who've won all sorts of medals over the years. And one of them, the guy on the left or the right as you look, he's called Johnny Brownlow. And about 10 years ago, he was running in the World Championships of the triathlon. And he got to the last bit of the three, the running race, after the cycling and the swimming. He got to the last bit. And he got to the last 500 meters or so, and he was winning. He was ahead. And then his legs just went. And he just went. And he just couldn't run properly anymore. And he was like hobbling. He looked like a toddler. It's like trying to run the last 100 meters. And the guy who was second caught him up and just bombed past him. And the guy who was third joined him. And the guy who was third with his brother. And the guy who was third took his younger brother round the arm, and they finished their race. And they ran the last couple of 100 meters together. It's quite an emotional video if you watch it on YouTube. And when they get to the finish line, the one who was third pushes his brother over the line before him. No, you finish before me. You finish second, I'll finish third. It's a great picture of that we run together in the church. We run surrounded. Abby, a few weeks ago, spoke to us, for those of us there, about a hero, we'll call him that, from church history called Simeon. Simeon the Stylite, from the 3rd or 4th century, who became a monk out of, I'm sure, devotion to Jesus, wanted to live wholeheartedly for Christ. He became a monk, but that was just too much for him. Too much activity, too many people. So he became a hermit. And that was too much because people came to find him. He lived in a hut, I think. And then he found, that's how he told the story, he found a pillar, I think about 10 or 15 meters high. And Simeon said, I'll go and live at the top of that pillar. And he lived at the top of that pillar for 37 years. Simeon the Stylite. Stylite, the Greek word stylos, meaning pillar. They gave him a nickname. I imagine they gave him a few nicknames, but that was one of the nicknames he's got. Simeon the Stylite. Centuries and centuries ago. We don't know the man's heart. I'm sure he had devotion, a powerful devotion to Christ. But he chose to live it alone. Bang the opposite of these two Brownlee brothers. And the temptation for all of us, me the first, is of course I live for Christ, but I think I'll just go up my column. One another's, really? No, I'm better off by myself, aren't I? We need each other. We run better when we're surrounded. It's a beautiful testimony of Sheila's. Her husband was away, person she lives mostly surrounded with, but she chose to surround herself with us for the week, even more than normal. It's a great picture. We need each other. That's why life groups are important. Again, it's not just, that's what churches do. Well, it's what they do because the Bible says it's a good idea, and it gives us a chance to walk with one another. It's why pastoral relationships are important. It's why friendships are important. It's why the D groups that a lot of you teenagers are part of are so important. It's why the fact that we're part of a wider family of churches is important. Salt and Light is a deeply imperfect group of churches. Salt and Light advances, I know for sure. We lead it. But the point is, it's the family that God's put us with. So we run together. That's why Jason's traveled 40 minutes today, because he wants to run with his friends in Cheltenham and serve them. The sense of being surrounded speaks to the corporate element of church life, that we need each other. That if we want to build an Isaiah 56 church, we've got to run together. And for some of us, that's easy. The more extrovert people, that's easy. We love it. More introvert among us, this doesn't mean, it's not an extrovert-introvert thing, though. We're all called to it. We're all called to run together. Thirdly and finally, as we come to an end, run, you can probably guess it, with perseverance. Let us run, the author says, with perseverance the race marked out for us. I'm sure as individuals, I don't know how many we are, 150 people in the room, that's 150 different races to run. The Lord has marked out a race only for Brad Bidoff, that only he can run. But he's also marked out a race for this church that together we run. And we run it with perseverance. It's one of the most important qualities of a Christian. Resilience, perseverance, getting up again when you get knocked down and keeping on going. It's one of the most important characteristics of a Christian. Just earlier in chapter 10 of Hebrews, the author says this: let us hold unswervingly to the hope we profess, for he who promised is faithful. Isn't that wonderful? Let us consider, same expression as 12, let us consider how we may spur one another on. To me, that's like the image of someone else is running and we're spurring them on. We're encouraging them on. Spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together, as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another. Not giving up meeting together. It's a little challenge from the author. It's like that verse in, I think it's Peter, that says, practice hospitality without grumbling. You think, did you have to say that? Oh yeah, no, you did, because we grumble. Let us not give up meeting together, as some are in the habit of doing. Let's persevere. Let's keep making our Sundays a priority, our life groups a priority. Tuesday evening, 16th, a couple of weeks' time, let's be there. Let's make it a priority if we can. Where there's couples and little kids, see if one can come, one can be here. Let us not give up meeting together, as some are in the habit of doing. Let's keep going. Let's keep giving ourselves to one another. Let's keep choosing servanthood. It's the best way to reflect the gospel of Christ, serving. Let's keep choosing prayer. We'll do another prayer week, I guess, in Easter. We did one on Easter this year, don't we? Shouldn't be on the bounds of possibility for 90% of us to give an hour to pray during our prayer week. Let's keep giving ourselves to prayer. Keep giving ourselves to stepping out missionally. So we've got this Alpha course starting, 24th of September. Part of the reason Anna and I are doing it is because we know we need to step out. We need to step out with people who don't yet know Jesus. We need to take a step, open our home. It's possible that one person comes. It's possible that 21 comes. I don't know. Let's all persevere. Who is the person that you can invite to Alpha? Let's have 150 invitations going out. 150 people come, we'll change plans for sure. If you are still exploring Jesus and the basics of faith, we'd love to have you there. Come and speak to us. If nothing else, you have a really fun 10 weeks. And you get a really nice meal every week as well. Run free, run surrounded, run with perseverance. Anything can happen in the next 12 months. Well, we've got 4 months left of this year. 3.5. Anything can still happen. Who knows what God will do during this Alpha course? Who knows? We'll see. Who knows that more of the people that we're going to meet at the hotel who are just arriving, who knows what people we can bless? Who knows what they can teach us over the next few months as well? Who knows how many more people are going to get set free from debt? That ivy cut off so that they can be free. 6 people are getting baptized. Who knows if it will be 7? Who knows? If we give ourselves to all that Jesus has got for us as a church community, and I'd encourage us to give our all, running free, running surrounded, and running with perseverance. Is there an amen in the house? There is. Yes.